Full primetime address from the President of the United States, Donald Trump, speaking to the nation with updates on Operation Epic Fury. The president saying most of the Iranian regime is dead and their navy is completely destroyed. Their air force, he says, shattered. On what comes next, the president gave a 2 to 3 week timeline to finish the job. Foreign policy expert Sierra Claire with us this morning. Sierra, good morning to you. Some main takeaways from last night. The first being a timeline of how much longer this will last. Good to hear. It's just a couple of weeks from now before this is all over.
Yeah, absolutely, Vanessa. I think there were a lot of reactions to the speech. And one of the things that I saw was, the build up to the speech maybe confused people, or they took it to mean something different. And so now we're seeing reactions where people are saying, oh, can we believe Trump in this timeline? Absolutely. I think we can. I think that was one of the reasons why he made the speech, was to reassure Americans that this is not a forever war. So, we're going to see this increased op tempo for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then we're going to see this start to wind down.
Right. And I think we're already starting to see a little bit of it winding down. There was a lot of talk in the beginning, Sierra, if he was going to put boots on the ground. And I think that was one of his main points of interest, is to make sure that our troops did not have to be on the ground there. They were trying to do everything from the air. And it looks like that's going to be the case. With more on completing the mission, let's take another listen to what he had to say.
As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their air force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their navy is gone. Their air force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I've traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil, and I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands. We salute them, and now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives. And every single one of the people, their loved ones said, "Please, sir, please finish the job." Every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast.
I think one of the main quotes from last night, when he talked about how he has depleted the Iranian regime, Sierra, is that he is taking them back to the Stone Age. So that right there gives you an idea of just how bad it is there when it comes to what military they have left.
Yeah, well, they don't have any military left. And, I heard a quote from President Trump the other day where he was talking about opening the Strait of Hormuz. And he said, people say it's not open because they have one guy with a machine gun. So that's literally what we're talking about. And I mean, there are threats from that, but the reaction from some of our allies and from some of the, commentary on this that keep talking about, well, Iran may not have what America has, but they still have an ability to hit back. Well, we're talking about one guy with a machine gun. We're talking about one missile left in the whole country, maybe. So I think that needs to just be made very clear. People need to understand it's a threat to just have, a civilian ship going through the strait, or maybe civilians wandering around, not sheltering in place like they are now. So that's why we're seeing all this like military language of like, yeah, it's still a high threat environment, but the um the actual military capability is completely zero.
Right. And, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another one of my favorite quotes this week from the president during a press conference. Someone talked about Iran still threatening retaliation. And he said, with what? A BB gun? They don't have anything left. And so, it's good to see and hear that all of this is depleted. Like the president said, for generations to come, we don't have to worry about Iran having nuclear weapons. But when it comes to us here at home, Sierra, some of the immediate impacts we've been feeling from this war, the Wall Street numbers, from the big board, the stocks have gone down, but we know that that's just temporary. As President Trump always says, don't be a panicking. Things will get better. We've just got to finish this job before we bounce back. And then also gas prices that have gone up, talking about the oil supply tied to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. He mentioned that last night as well. Let's take a quick listen to what he had to say.
The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought, but we had to take that little journey to.
Yeah. And so, the president right there, Sierra, saying rely more on U.S. energy exports. We have the oil here in America.
Well, absolutely, Vanessa. The oil crisis, the thing about it is that right now it exists on paper. It doesn't exist in real life. And that's how markets work. And, I've seen oil executives explaining that it's about the planning and the expected shortages, that causes all of this market volatility. But in reality, the oil is there. It's on the ships. It's in the refineries. It's still there. If Iran cannot make a deal with President Trump, and if they choose to, risk their actual oil infrastructure, that changes things about the calculations about the oil prices and the markets. So we don't want to see them do that. I don't know why they would do that. Wouldn't make any sense for them. So I think we are going to see them comply. They have to. But my point is that right now the oil quote unquote shortages is on the paper. It's not in real life. So we have plenty of oil here in the United States. The other countries who need oil, they have the oil. It exists, and we are going to see this market volatility smooth out probably in 2 to 3 weeks, as President Trump is talking about.
Right. And that's a good timeline. We've been fearing, a lot of people have been fearing, the left trying to put a scare into all of this, saying this is going to be a long-term war. But what we've been saying, what the president just reiterated again last night, this is short term. We're going in, we're getting the job done, and we're getting right back out of there. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he has been very vocal and very transparent with this war from the very beginning, holding a press conference at the Pentagon weekly just to update Americans on what's going on. So this is a very transparent administration, making sure that Americans know and keeping us updated on the happenings there in the Middle East. A lot of prayers and support for our military, of course, coming from this administration. Pete Hegseth, I want to play a soundbite from him because this really sums up, the big picture from overhead of what's going on. If you don't depend on the Lord to guide us through, how are you going to get through? So let's listen to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
I serve God, the troops, the country, the Constitution, and the President of the United States, and answer only to those, all in service of victory on the battlefield and the military objectives that we've laid out from day one. Defeat the missiles, missile launchers, and defense industrial base, which I laid out today. Defeat the Navy and deny Iran the ability to have a nuclear weapon.
That sums it up right there in that one sentence, Sierra. This administration is very supportive of our military. We've seen a lot of the wokeness from the past administration pushed out of the way. We have the best of the best on the front lines yet again, and it's just good to see great leaders in charge of our military. We saw what happened in Venezuela, how they went in and the overnight hours and captured Maduro, what they're doing in the Middle East. This is good to see that our military is back, and again, once again, the most respected and best military in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, Vanessa. As you said, we have great leaders, and we have a great military. They have the skill, they have the ability, and they're being allowed to unleash it for the good of the United States and the world. There's as you said, from the Democrat side, always a problem, and the most widely heard problem that I've heard from the Democrat side about the military is that they think somehow the military is breaking the law. And so I actually got to interview a military law expert recently who laid out that, when you hear these type of accusations, it's very harmful to America, first of all, but it's completely unfounded. If you disagree with the president's decision to go into war or to undertake an operation in this case, that is about, and you say, oh, maybe it's a violation of international law. Many people believe it's not, but that's the argument. That is about the president, and that cannot be applied to our soldiers who are following our laws, the U.S. laws, and telling people soldiers are breaking international law, soldiers are committing extrajudicial killings. That's actually not how it works. International law applies to the president. And the soldiers are following all of the laws and the rules of engagement that Pete Hegseth has set out, which are very appropriate for this Iran operation.
You're absolutely right. And you mentioned that you conducted an interview. I want everyone to guide their attention there and turn there for your interviews that you're doing on foreign policy and so much more. You have a new podcast out. We want to talk about that, the 11 o'clock hour. Where can we find that, Sierra?
That's on YouTube, the 11 o'clock hour. It's on my Substack, sierranock.substack.com. And you can also follow me on X and get all of my latest updates.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for being here with us today and giving us a recap of President Trump's speech last night.
Thanks, Vanessa.